that wouldn't do the way they were feeding the data stream. And so, like, they had like 25 different advertiser databases crash because of my name.
Way to go.
So that's why I was told I was deleted. So,
nice work, Steve.
Well, but you know, on the other part, you know, I became a much happier individual because the only thing I have on Facebook is Steve Plunkett, which is work. So there's no personal drama, no BS, no relationship crap.
See, that's it. Like my wife. Like, people ask my wife, why won't Dave follow me back to, like, our friends and people we know, like relatives and friends? And she always has the same answer. Dave doesn't use Facebook for anything but work. So if you follow Dave, you're just gonna get SEO shit all fucking day long. So believe me, you don't want that. So yeah, I literally, that's what I don't use Facebook for any personal shit. Really, it's just, you know, I'm fucking 50 years old almost. So you want to talk to me, call me or something. You know, email me. Like, Facebook, fuck off.
Send me a postcard.
Yeah, that's right, man. Send me a fax. But, you know, yeah, I just don't. Facebook for me is just all that, you know, my Facebook's all SEO shit. Anybody I want to talk to personally, you know, we've got the chat, we've got, you know, other ways of communicating. So,
like my relatives, they asked for my email, and I said, I'm not going to get it to you because all I'll get is chain letters and other shit. I really don't want to be bothered for work.
Still, you know, things about hacks and horrible dangerous things.
Exactly. I've never seen on my Facebook, I've never seen Terry Van Horn wants to play Farmville, you know, so. These are the people I keep around. I start getting game requests on Facebook. Delete you, bye, see you.
I just ignore them. And Facebook surely is not my favorite platform. It never has been.
Farmville was definitely what first made me reevaluate my connections across the board, was that all the influx of Farmville.
How about that Mafia Wars thing?
Yeah, that was last year. That was going around. Yeah, but all of them, just any of those games in general. When I get those, I'm like, fuck off.
What kills me is so many people get upset about that.
People
they don't realize there's absolutely almost zero control that the user has over who gets blasted with those things until Facebook changed the rules recently. It was all automated. Nobody had a choice. You just got them because somebody you knew happened to play the game. And they got all pissed off about, you quit sending me these requests, I don't play games. It's like, fuck you, I'm not sending them. Facebook is sending them.
Because when you click that allow thing, that's one of the things that allows is for it to send shit out from your account like that.
Well, before, in the early days, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah, even if you blocked it. Hey, Steve, even if you blocked that stuff, it still got through.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is because here's the thing. In Candy Crush, for example, I realized I played it to level 500 and then had to start over, and now I'm on level 100, so that tells you what I've done in a week. The thing is, I don't pay for games ever. I mean, I buy games, but I won't pay in a game, especially on Candy Crush, because it's a ripoff. Google that. I'm first. I've wrote a blog on it. So the thing is with these games, there's a choice of click all, right? And you see first name and last name, which means you think these people are playing Candy Crush because when they show first name and last name on your friends list, those are the other people that play Candy Crush. However, if you scroll down in that list, you're going to see people's just only first name, and when it shows just their first name, they're not playing Candy Crush. But if you select send to all, then it goes to all those people, even if you block them, because then it's an email.
Interesting to know.
Specifically block Candy Crush invites from this person who has no clue, then it won't work.
Companies pay for that, don't they, Steve?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is
revenue stream. No wonder they don't turn off revenue streams generally.
No. There's a lot of tricks in these games to where you can actually, somewhat like Candy Crush. I wouldn't spend money on Candy Crush. The reason why is because not all the interactions on the actual way that you play the game are consistent. Right. So one time we'll have 3 things or 4 things stacked together, and it'll make a special item. But otherwise, it'll have 4 things stacked together, and the middle one will slip out, fall down to the next thing or something. And that's not really the way the game is supposed to work. But there's little things to where you've got an if-then statement of, if this will screw the person more, click here, or move to this space. And so there's ways to design them where you can ethically deceive people, I guess would be the best way to say it.
No, they're just making the game more challenging.
I
No,
think Steve Gerritzer is the only one that I'm aware of who used games in an intelligent way to grow some business.
I made a lot of money.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, you told me that story about Bejeweled, and it's just like, whoa, I had never even considered that.
All right. Well, since we're actually live and there's people watching, we might as well get moving.
Oh, I thought we were talking about social media.
Yeah, today it's all about Candy Crush on the SEO Training Dojo.
Well, hey, here's the thing about games. I don't know if you guys read my blog for South by Southwest, approved for this section, so I wrote a blog on it anyways. Game revenue optimization. There's a whole way that people can make money. There's a way brands fit into this. There's a way this fits in search, because at some point now we have Capital One that has a bank in Cityville, and so now all the Cityville comments on Facebook now have Capital One. So now you see Capital One trending on Facebook because of the game. And you may not be involved in the game or see that stream or have any friends that post that Capital One thing that I bought on Cityville to your stream because you blocked those invites, but it's still going to make the brand trend on Facebook, which then therefore makes their Facebook post from their Facebook page show up in Google more.
Well done.
There we go. So, who wants to play with this one? We brought this up in the chat, I don't know, last month or 3 weeks ago, so I made a note of it, which was sort of keyword research. And, you know, I was saying that I don't know, I think of term targeting, phrase research, or things of that nature, meaning I don't, the old school we used to, you know, target an exact match phrase and shit like that, and I just don't do that anymore. What about you guys? Like, what I find, even post hummingbird or whatever, is just that I think, Terry, I guess we were looking at the query classification seem to be changing, right? And that, you know, two things we saw happening was where you used to like have, like, let's say a generalized term like payday. You used to have a lot of transactional sites up at the top because guess what? They're spending more on SEO, right? So when the hummingbird stuff hit, one of the things we noticed was Google was changing the classification and the SERP presentation to give more informational results, and I think government stuff too, right, Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was government stuff was showing up more too. So basically, they were trying to diversify generalized queries that weren't, you know, if a query is not location specific, if it wasn't triggering, if it wasn't information specific, or if it wasn't transactional specific, meaning you know, SUV or something like that, that they were trying to diversify it a bit more. So we started seeing some of that. The other thing we saw with Hummingbird, I guess, was, you know, where to rent an apartment, where to let an apartment, where to get an apartment, things like that that used to be very keyword-centric were now more melded in together, meaning that they were using semantic equivalents and applying the same results to all of them as opposed to keyword-specific. So we started...
In the old days, you would have got different results for all of those words. Now they all mean the same thing to Google, pretty much.
Yeah, to a large degree, we started seeing a lot of that happening, so that we were like, okay, interesting. And I think for quite a few years before that, we were still talking in terms of phrases and concepts and what have you, as opposed to keywords, you know what I mean? And I think clients and customers of ours, you know, they come in with keywords because they all got their ranking reports and all their other shit. And, you know, we just started moving away from that. And I think, Doc, it was, maybe you and I were talking about a while back, which was semantic baskets and shit like that, you know what I mean? As far as that, you know, that's kind of how I look at things.
Well, we stopped doing keyword research, for organic stuff at least. We stopped doing keyword research a couple of years ago.
What?
And we are now focusing much more on query research, you know, trying to determine what's the classification and put some characteristics to the query and go after that rather than just the keywords, because the algorithms now are much more able to discern some of the context of both the query and of the content, which makes just the keyword itself a lot less useful to us.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the classifications, which I just, you know, the query classifications, because I got a client right now, and I said, well, send me over the terms you're looking to target, this and that. I'm going to do an audit, right? So I said, you know, send me over the stuff. And I started looking at them and to start doing competitor analysis and shit like this. And I noticed right away that they've got some that are transactional, some are informational, and this and that. So, you know, obviously the competitors and how these SERPs are set up are completely different. Meanwhile, these guys don't really have a blog or anything that would, it's an e-com site for the most part. And they don't really have anything that's going to suit these informational terms that they're trying to target. You know, I mean, they have no article section on the site. They have no blog. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, how to, you know, I forget what it's something to do with used cars, wrecked cars, and this and that. And what was coming up in the results were all actually informational sites. You know what I mean? They were 100%, like, well, 80, 90% informational sites were coming back in the results. I'm like, well, how are you going to compete with that when you've got nothing in place to actually do that? You know what I mean? You're purely a transactional site, and that's how you're kind of built.
Well, that's one of the things I think, Dave, that a lot of site owners really need to look at, not just, you know, I've never been a big fan of ranking reports, okay? Rankings, for most of my clients, rankings themselves are relatively meaningless. But if you're going to look at rankings, at least determine why are you ranking for that term. You know, are you ranking for it on an informational basis or a transactional basis? If you're looking to sell a product with a given term and you're only getting qualified for informational searches, you're missing the boat.
Well, that's it. You know, and again, you look at the modifiers, you know, as opposed to where to buy or where can I get or et cetera, that you need those transactional modifiers in there if that's what you're targeting. But yeah, if you're not set up for informational queries, targeting them is kind of pointless. And Dan's here now, so I got to say that I still to this day remember we had a chat in the dojo when we used to do these in text about 2.5 years ago. And Dan was going on this rant and talking and this and that, and someone said, Dan, how many keywords should you target a page? Dan said, at least one.
Perfect answer.
Still to this day one of my favorite answers.
Yep.
How's it going, Dan?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, man. What's on your screen there? Sorry, Paisley.
You see it?
What am I looking for?
Well, I'm on Quora, right?
Yeah.
And Sergey Brin's asking questions because he wants to figure out how Quora works because Google Questions is about to launch.
Okay. And we care why?
Yeah.
Whoa. Get out of there.
Am I getting out of there?
No, I'm sorry. Your screen was multiplying infinitely.
Yeah, I know. It was the feedback loop. But, yeah, no, the thing is it's just notice where Google founders, Google workers, where do they play, what are they experimenting with? If you have somebody that works at Google that's in an engineering position that spends 3 or 4 hours on some other website, you might want to take notice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us that don't sleep.
So, Paisley, how do you go about term targeting and stuff these days? You know, I mean, you work at scale, right? Most of the stuff you're doing?
Well, I mean, we scale because I have some. It depends on what it is. You know, if it's, and I actually did work on one of the terms you talked about, but I can't say because of, you know, client privacy. But we have clients that I think keywords are essential just because of what the user wants. You know, I think we drop it instead of going, okay, here's what keywords are. You know, my thing with keywords, I'm still going to go back to the human component of the people that answer your phones every day. I want them for 2 weeks to write down 10 things that people call in for. Yes. And put hashtags, hash marks.
Well, no, yeah, dude, I'm always like that. First thing when I'm targeting stuff, I always say talk to the sales team and talk to the customer support team. And that goes for content creation as well, but obviously they go hand in hand. But yeah, I mean, the sales team and the support teams, the customer support teams, have a bevy of stuff you can go after, for sure.
Well, I think that's really where you have to start the thing, because the other part is, and you want to do these things in a silo, because the sales team will have a different idea because they're getting the qualified calls. Okay, someone that's already connected with them, and so, okay, what do your clients want? Well, they want a back-end CRM, blah blah blah. Whereas the receptionist may get asked for an information management database. Okay, so it depends on what they're asked. Then you have to go to the marketing director and see what terms they think are top in their industry. You ask them what they think of their company and what they should show up in search with, and then you ask them what customers of theirs would think they would search with. Then you have to go to the vanity level and go to the CEO. Okay, and what do you think you should be found in Google for? And then you ask him what are the big worries that plague your industry, and specifically your company's reputation. Because if his company's name is what X or X company, xcompanysucks.com, xcompanyboycott.com. What are people talking about your brand in search? So then we have a branded set, then we have an unbranded set of keywords. Then at that point we figure out, okay, where in the user buying cycle do people put in different keywords? So is it pre-purchase? I'm in the research phase. I don't have a brand in mind, so I'm looking for a product type, an unbranded search term. After I narrow it down to 3 or 4 products, then I may look for a brand with the product name and the review, the word review. Now, naturally, review is not the same word as complaint, because complaint is all the way at the other end of the buying cycle after I've bought it and I'm pissed off. Or I went to the store and I tried to buy it and I got pissed off. That's when people use the brand name plus complaints. So I think it's where you're at in the buying cycle and where the pain is in the customer's mind. We don't have enough new traffic. We don't have enough old traffic. We're tired of people saying bad things about us online. We put in our product name, and all we get is these crappy reviews. You know, what is the client's problem that you need to solve? And I think then you find out what keywords people are using in that segment, and then you have to go after that. And, like, for example, ranking reports, what are they good for? Well, if I have a client and brand name company sucks is the term that I'm monitoring for them, I want to make sure I can create enough content on their website to where their detractors' websites don't show up, and it's only their branded content. I've got their Twitter, I've got their Facebook, I've got their Pinterest, I've got their YouTube, I've got their website, I've got as many things as I can possibly get filling up that first 10 box to where the bad negative information about my client's brand doesn't show up in search. And we actually have people, I don't do that kind of work because that's data entry, but it's basically you have to go in incognito mode, put this down and take a screenshot of where you are with this client this week because they want to know when it's, and we have charts and graphs that show the movement of we've got the top 10 results on your website for these 3 months. Note, number 9 and 10 were Piss Consumer and Ripoff Report. Okay, next week, now that's moved. So you have to consistently battle that type of stuff in defending brands online.
When you mentioned, it was interesting, you mentioned along the way products and stuff like that. That's the other thing I tend to get into with them early on as far as, you know what I mean. So what kind of stuff are you looking at? I tend to go out and talk to them about high margin products, end of line stuff they're trying to get rid of, things of that nature, because you can't, obviously you got 4,000 products in a database, you don't have the budget to be targeting all of those. So I tend to sit down and talk to them and figure out which ones have the best margins, which ones you're trying to push, or do you have end of line stuff you're trying to get rid of, things of that nature. How are you going about narrowing down products? Anybody really? Steve's talking muted, so you're muted, Steve.
I know. I'm muted. So it depends. Well, here's the thing. Like Tony. You guys know Tony Berry, right? Follow him on Twitter at Tony Berry. He's one of my coworkers at Rockfish. He kind of got the same way I kind of go hardcore. Hey, how's it going? And I go way into Google, and that's kind of my deep thing. But then he kind of went way into Amazon, and he's kind of figured out how to rank clients' products in Amazon as well as all the downstream.
Right. Yeah, because then you can push, because that the authority Amazon has on its own pushes stuff. So yeah, for sure, I agree there.
Well, I mean specifically shoppers on Amazon. He's looking at the digital shelf. If I'm on Amazon or I'm on Walmart.com or I'm on Target.com and we represent a product brand, how do I make sure my product brand ranks first in search results for the unbranded term associated with the client's product on Target.com, on Amazon.com, on Walmart.com? Yeah. That's the digital shelf optimization. And Tony's kind of really gone hardcore after it, and kind of the same way we split up. Tony went hardcore after shopping. Elmer, I don't know if you guys know Elmer, he does a lot of the ORM work, and then we just kind of figure out, we divide in teams. So that's scale in terms of depending what the client's need is. You know,
Ammon, what about you, Ammon? I know you got lots of skinny on this shit too as well, obviously. How do you go about at least defining keywords? Let's say transactional ones. Let's skip the informational for now, but you know, as far as terms go with clients that have e-common products and obviously zillions of products, when you get into discussions, what kind of things are you asking them as far as how you're nailing down which ones do you want to go after?
It depends where we're going. I mean, with organic keywords, usually with a larger site, it's dynamic anyway. So you've had to set up dynamically that it's going to be optimizing for every product that goes in, and they understand however many products there are, they're all going to be, you know, set up so that page is working. It's only when you get onto the pay-per-click that I'm really having to narrow it down, even if they've got 200,000 products.
But even if it's internal linkings and things of that nature that you're trying to boost a given page, you know what I mean? I still get in these discussions, and I tend to look at, you know, profit margins and shit like that as far as what I'm going to go after.
Dude.
Oh, Dan's got something.
Dude, so run paid search shopping campaigns. Run Google shopping campaigns.
Yeah, they have these, so I've got all the data from those for sure. Like, they have all that stuff in place.
We should, anybody that's interested, we could probably do like just a session just about how to do that math and stuff. I can show you guys how we do the math, but I mean, you've got to marry up the analytics data on transactions. You've got to marry up information on margins and average transaction sizes and all that stuff together. But you know, the data is all going to be there. If you look at your search impressions in paid search, you're going to get more data out of that than anything else you could get data from.
And that's generally what we use, at least what I've been using, because you're trying to wean off some of that pay-per-click. You know what I mean? They're spending 10 grand a month on freaking AdWords, getting low, you know. So I'm trying to wean them off on certain products and this and that, and move it over to the organic side.
Okay, please let me look at that AdWords account, and then I'll shut up, because there's money laying on the table, pal. Shopping campaign should run it at 10 times return on ad spend.
Yeah, they're not even close to that, I'm sure.
I just took in a client that was spending $10,000 a month on pay-per-click for the last 18 months and averaged $3,200 income off of it, and just now noticed.
Just noticed.
Would you say that's bad ROI, Doc?
You doubled up. Say again, Marge?
Would you say that's bad ROI?
Well, yeah, and pretty poor management.
Yeah, poor business management.
And then now they probably watched this, and now they're pissed at me. But
there you go.
In terms of ROI, you might as well just tell them, look, take 3 bills out of your wallet, now flush 2 of them down the toilet. That's what your pay-per-click campaigns do.
Every month for a year and a half, yeah.
There are a significant number of people out there now giving advice about paid advertising through AdWords that are saying that if you get a 50% return on your ad spend, you're doing a really good job, because in theory you could sell to them again later and make. That is what clients are being told these days by a lot of these ad companies.
And a lot of them
their target is to break even.
There's a lot of truth to it. Amazon built their whole business on a customer acquisition cost that was higher than the profit they were making, and everyone was saying, "Oh, yeah,
so how many
crazy! They're spending $50 to make an average of a $20 sale." Yeah.
But how many businesses have that kind of deep pockets from investors that they can do that for 10 years?
Well, actually, what Evan just said makes sense, because if the acquisition cost is X, but you get to keep that customer on board, and you continue to sell to them. I mean, you build a relationship, they continue to buy, then the actual, income earned is different than what the ad. I mean, that whole thing.
But if you're going to talk about that, you need to actually be able to do the math for people, because otherwise you're just blowing smoke or repeating the best quote you could find on some industry report or Moz post.
Well, of course.
Doesn't make you useful, right? Well, because.
And that's really hard to do with a brand new site that has no brand, presence. And they go, well, how do I get people here? How do I get them to join my membership? It's just like, what you guys said earlier. What would they search for to find a product like yours?
Yeah, we like to start that by trying to build a small audience that thinks of them as a big brand.
Right, I mean, join the social media, and then they resist, Facebook, and I'm thinking, your customers are probably on Facebook. You should go there and find them, your potential customers. But no, I just like LinkedIn. It's more professional. Well, okay, stick in the mud, I don't know. That's just me. Thinking out loud.
It can come back to something I used to say way back in the 90s when people still used, the top 10 keywords, and people said, "Oh, travel's really hot. We've got a new travel business." And I was like, "Great. I've got 50 in my bookmarks. What have you got that's going to make me delete one of those bookmarks and put you in its place?"
Yeah, differentiation.
There's a lot of companies, if they don't have a brand, that's not a huge issue, but if they don't, if you can ask them, look, where are your customers going right now? If they've got an answer to that, they've got a problem that they need to address.
Right.
Unless you are a completely new thing, but there is no rival, then you're going to have to address that before you do anything else, because it doesn't matter how well you're positioned in search. I want a book, I go straight to Amazon. I don't have to search for books. I might shop around for a price, but I'm going to go straight to Amazon first because I know I've already got my stuff there, I've got my details there, I've got one-click ordering, piece of cake.
Apple Pay is going to make that possible for everybody, though. I mean, in 10 years, every transaction ends with somebody sticking their thumb on a phone, and there won't be any other kind of transaction that there is, except for drugs. Right, Terry?
Right. Well, it'd be better.
Do you really believe that, Dan? That people are only going to shop on their smartphones?
It's your phone becomes the payment device, and everybody has one, right? So you're sitting at your computer, you're shopping on the computer, but the transaction ends with you pushing your thumb on your phone or on your computer. It won't matter. Amazon will have more about you than anybody else does, because in Amazon's vaunted advantage right now is a privacy issue for them down the road when they're competing against everybody else has thumb payment that's virtually anonymous, at least anonymous to the seller. Anyway.
It might happen, Dan, but I remember people saying exactly the same thing about Google Wallet a couple of years ago.
Right, but Google didn't know how to sell things, and Apple does.
Yeah, Google, the way they promoted that was wrong. They went directly to the public. What did Apple do that was very smart? They got 2,000 banks.
They went to the banks and made it something real. That you set it up once, and then it's your thumb.
And then they're going to
200,000 retailers.
Come out with a better way.
And those banks will be able to issue you your next card straight into Apple Pay. You won't have to even have one again. There won't be any more plastic cards running around.
Wallets are going to go the way of the fucking buggy whip.
Yeah. It's just like computers 30 years ago. We're going to do away with paper. We're all going to have paperless offices.
I agree there. It always gets taken to an extreme.
You notice we print out more bloody paper now than we ever had in the old days.
Just in regards to the keyword research, I've changed what I'm doing a lot, realizing that there's so much natural language processing going on that to target a term is to be an idiot. Like, you got to go and what I do is I look for huge baskets of terms. And then I try and optimize the page to bring in as much of that as I can. Because that's actually what Google is doing now, is they want to see all those things that are related to that in the page as well.
Can I just say one more thing about AdWords, Terry, because you'll appreciate this process because you like hacks that save you time too. So how much, so let's say you're going to spend 4 hours working on keyword research, right? And your time is worth, I don't know, $10-15 an hour at least, right? So that gives you a $60 budget to go.
$10 an hour. I'm getting a raise.
And collect data while you sleep. And you don't have to bid high to find out what searches are out there, because you're going to get impressions early on, no matter what you do virtually.
I just posted a link to the chat about fraud in Apple Pay.
Yeah, they've already been hacked.
We're not talking about Apple Pay. That's not the topic.
Well, I understand, but I just wanted to finish up and let people know it was there who were interested.
Yeah. All right, so what are you saying, Emmett?
I lost the train of thought now. It comes down to tracking, because one of the things I see in pay-per-click a lot is people say, oh, hardly anyone's using the pay-per-click to buy. And it's like, yeah, Where do you think your 95% conversions on your brand name are coming from when you've got nothing else out there that's advertising your site effectively? And there's a lot of people who are only tracking where the actual click that converts came from, and of course you're not going to understand the value of your pay-per-click or your organic or social or anything else.
Right, so you're not grasping the whole sale attribution funnel.
A long time ago, I gave up trying to figure out where the fuck people come from. You just don't know, you know, to think and to go by, you know, because that's the last person. Well, you know, here's what I know from Google Analytics. Most sites, people visit it 2 or 3 times before they actually buy something. So to think that that last click is what brought the sale on, you're an idiot. You're not going to, your date is all skewed if you're looking at it from that perspective.
Exactly. The higher the ticket price, the more visits somebody will usually make before they convert. But yeah, I mean, they found across the board the average was about 6 visits before conversion.
So you guys are saying that the idea of a funnel, you know, driving people in through some kind of a funnel is non-existent? You just don't know, or you can't track it?
Like take what Ammon just said. If you're buying a car or a dishwasher or anything of a larger ticket price item, you're going to have a higher percentage of people that are going to visit your site multiple times. They might have found you on Facebook or Twitter or Google, or you don't know, on that initial visit. So, and then you marry that with what Terry's saying as far as, okay, so they visited a while back, this and that, and they remember your company, which, you know, let's, you know, XYZ. So now they do a brand search for you because they've decided, okay, I'm going to make a purchase from XYZ.com. That's the one I liked. So now they go back to Google. They type in a brand search, which is a navigational. So they type in XYZ.com because they don't know how to put it, you know, into their fucking browser. It pulls up XYZ. They click that, come through, and buy. You know what I mean? So, but how do you attribute that? Was it, you know, that first visit, second visit? Was it because they saw you on Facebook? Where, you know, the attribution of that sales funnel isn't always that last navigational brand search. No, they just remember the name of your website or something and type that into Google, and they use that to navigate. But that's not proper sales attribution.
See those in AdWords and a little bit in analytics and a lot of different tools. I've been trying to pull graphs of some of these 12-touch conversions where it starts with an organic search and never touches organic search again, and the last one is direct. It's absolutely freaking amazing where people go, and you can see a brand search for your name, and then people do 12 other things all around that, reading reviews and stuff like that, and the last thing they do is type your domain name in, and the conversion is direct, and they've been to your site 12 times through 12 different channels. And you know, so you know, when we're, you know, trying to justify what we do, but also trying to figure out how to allocate resources to what's working the best, you know, getting into those, into looking at the attribution model and thinking about how you value the contribution of different things. I think the best thing if you're in SEO is to think of it in terms of what is the total revenue that SEO contributed to, and try and get the client to you know, at least consider that number as the thing you're trying to grow, even if it's not the actual number of what you produced.
Yeah, and sometimes you've got to understand that, you know, all of those touches were needed. It takes that many touches to do the whole job. They are all.
You better do well in all of those, which is why having more than just one channel of marketing is really important, as you were saying.
Yeah, sometimes it's less like pouring water into a funnel, and it's a lot more like throwing a ball bearing in, and it bounces around the funnel quite a bit before it finally goes down there. You know, it's going to hit several points at different times rather than just neatly, you know, run straight down. You've got to kind of map out the whole thing. You've got to work out what your average number of touch points is. You've got to understand where all of those parts fit in, and ultimately, without any one of those touch points, it could have gone elsewhere. If they had to go to another site to get the reviews, they might have ended up remembering that brand instead of yours. If they'd had to get the product details from somewhere else, they might have printed out a sheet there that would have had the web department that's buying your product, or whoever is going to actually use it, looking at a completely different product. So you've got to put them all in.
What about retargeted ads too, Ammon, where people are getting pounded by all these ads on sites that, you know, they never click through, but your brand becomes top of mind because it's constantly, you're constantly being bombarded. Now, if it's Kemper, you press every fucking link and, you know, run the bill up as high as you can. But, you know.
Sometimes it's top of mind, sometimes it's top of the hit list. That company again! I only clicked
him again, eh? Yeah, we'll show him. There's a buck. I bet you days I cost him $10-15 a day.
But there is a funnel besides organic search, correct? I mean, people do A/B testing on pages. I mean, help me understand.
I do A/B testing on keywords.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something.
Which one?
Funnel isn't, you know, when Google shows you a funnel in analytics, a lot of times it doesn't tell you the landing page that they actually landed on. It says they came to some random fucking page on your site, which is next to useless. Which means you also can't track down the keyword.
No, there's a.
This is why we have a lot of external tracking beyond Google.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
Frank Watson's, as usual, he's over in the chat there in the Q&A. He's saying that the new cohort analysis in GA gives some insights. What the hell is cohort analysis? Anyone?
Collaborative this that. Like this caused that, or your friends do this, and your friends search for this, so therefore did you need this search term? Because you're
where is that? I haven't even looked. I haven't seen it.
In GWT. It's a beta.
In GA or GWT?
GWT. Everything's moving to GWT.
You need to read more books or something, man.
Because it's local. Plus and Google, all the other stuff generates a Google Plus page, generates a YouTube page, the whole thing.
Yeah, but I can learn that by just going to the fucking SERP and looking at the bottom at the related searches. It's probably the same thing.
Come here, Scooby.
And a lot faster than trolling your way through Google's data, which is about as easy to fucking move around as, you know, a too-high fucking elephant. It's useless.
There's this thing that has nothing but
Don't
the word
blame the elephant.
Everything in Facebook posts. I got to go find that for you, Terry.
What?
There's a.
If you want to understand cohort analysis, just get the sales pitch off of Kissmetrics' website, and that'll take about 3 minutes for you to get what they're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Frank's saying it's in GA as well. Frank, is that one of those things like the search queries you got to actually hook it up to the GWT, or I don't know. I probably
usually.
Yeah, I've not seen it. Don't know.
The thing is that there's so many different ways. I mean, I remember one client had a sudden boom and then it stopped and they couldn't quite work it out. And it turned out that, you know, somebody had done a blog post that compared them to another product, and there wasn't a direct link, but it had led to a lot of brand searches that converted. And, you know, keeping track of these kind of things, it's really, really difficult. And like I said in the in-group chat, data warehousing is where I move all of my big clients, because if you really want to know your data, you've got to keep track of it yourself. You can't rely on just Google passing on even a quarter of what it's got on your on the people. You've got to be tracking it, and you've got to be saying, right, this person is the same person that came by 2 months ago, who came by a month before that, because for a lot of things, holidays, houses, you know, big financial products, the sales time can be 6 months. And trying to track across often multiple devices, because they'll pop in on their work machine one time and their home computer another, you've really got to think about how you want to track this. You've got to think about doing the things, you know, the one I've talked before about, that email to a friend is actually used by most people to pass the link to themselves. If they're visiting on their work machine, having a way that they can send themselves the link to remind themselves when they're at home, that puts in a tracking code that tells your data warehouse which reference this is to and ties the two IPs together. You know, all of that kind of stuff really starts to come in, and you can get a real good picture.
Yeah, that kind of marketing automation is why we use Infusionsoft in Google Analytics is something that's nice to be able to check on a few things. And particularly, I mean, I'm very interested in Google Analytics in terms of the performance of the website, but in terms of actual people that might be prospects or customers, I want them in my CRM system, my marketing automation platform, and manage that stuff from there. That's keywords and whatever the channel is, whatever the source is, has to be part of that data, or you're just throwing away most of the picture because you just wanted to carve out the face of the Mona Lisa. But her hair is really the best part. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you can't live with just GA and expect to have any workable data. You got to be looking at data through multiple channels if you're really going to base your actions on data.
There's a lot of tweaks you can do with GA, and Google Universal. There's a lot you can do to tweak it, but
custom filters and custom reports, dude. I'm addicted.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm constantly building my own. The out-of-the-box GA just doesn't cut it because every client's different. The needs are different. What I want to know is different. So I think it's a good move for anybody. If you don't know how to do custom filters and reports, fucking learn them.
Learn it.
And
yeah.
also, of course, custom tagging, custom triggers, so that you are getting. Did they scroll down this page rather than just landed on it? Was this really a bounce straight away, or were they there for 30 minutes on this page? That kind of stuff. You can put into GA, but you've got to do it. It doesn't do it out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things about GA is the ability to build your own custom attribution model. So when you and the client, have done the hard work of figuring out from their data what that model should look like, you can set it, you can true it up quarterly, and you can actually steer the business right. At least in terms of where the resources go to which channels.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time,
we got to get efficient with people's money.
We thought we'd got a long way past that classic old saying, I know half my advertising is working, I just don't know which half. We're actually now at the level where we're tracking well enough to realize it's still true. It's still true.
Yeah, and with a really tight funnel, you're pissed off about the 20% that's bleeding over into direct no matter what you do, and that number is going up all the time. Yeah. I think we're all going to end up going to HTTPS so that we lose less of that data. But it's a problem right now.
Yeah. Google Analytics attributes some Bing and Yahoo traffic to direct, since they started hiding their query strings and stuff too, Dan.
Well, and if they're going from HTTPS and your site isn't, you've already lost everything. It's direct. You're done. So
Google,
more and more of these guys are going HTTPS by default in more contexts. Right now, Android mobile, you still end up going HTTP from Facebook, but that can't last for long.
Yeah, well, Google. They're blocking the referral data to some extent. And when
Google strips the referral data out so it wouldn't matter if they were HTTPS. That was one of the big fun lies of the last few years, no? That it was about security?
No, it's about taking all that stuff out of the system.
About not letting us value their SERPs anymore.
Well, they were doing some people a good service because they needed to get off the keyword bandwagon, So that's one way to do it. Take it away from them. So they have to learn another way. But I doubt that was their reasoning. That's why I didn't mind, because people were, how important are they these days? Like, not like they used to be. I mean,
depends who you ask.
I did a site redevelopment where they were done by an old school SEO team, and half the pages were targeting the same general terms. I just eliminated them. Didn't do nothing. That's the way things are these days.
What is a spleef?
That's misspelled split.
You don't know what a spleef is? Well, actually, Spleef is a Jamaican word for what they now call a blunt.
There you go.
They now call a what?
A
Blunt. Joint.
A spleef.
Okay.
A spleef was a cigar-rolled thing, which has now been urbanized. It's now a blunt.
If you roll it in syrup, then it lasts longer.
And it's put it in.
The only reason I know about that is because of extensive internet research. As I was studying the problem of medical marijuana.
Google is your friend, right there.
Effects on our society.
You want to dip it in all blue and make a sherm.
You learn something every day. I
Read
never heard that
on a
word
website.
before.
Must be true.
And if you don't like somebody, roll theirs in icy hot.
That's mean.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
What are you going to do? Call the cops?
That's like a menthol on steroids, if I think about it for a second.
It's death menthol. Goes best with death metal.
Okay, did you record that so nobody used that? Since we recorded that, we would all be guilty if somebody got...
Yeah, we're trying to see who can register deathmenthol.com the fastest, I know.
And this crowd, that's always the thing.
That actually was
I got to bet that I'm not the one with the best domainer apps on my iPhone.
What was it?
We had a really successful brand of cigarettes over here, which were called Death cigarettes. Black box with a little skull and crossbones on the front. Back when they first put in that all of them had to have the warnings, they went, right, let's go full out.
Well, that is your product, so sure.
Well, no,
grab it. You're a brand name. I would do it every time.
Well, yeah, and the next thing was they brought out the light version, of course, because everyone was starting to do that. So you got a white box with a black skull and crossbones on it called Death Lights, and I just loved that.
Now, do they have a beer called Depression, or is that one step too far?
What? Don't put that... Golly. You guys with F-bombs and dope smoking. God, I can't do this anymore. It's work. I'm trying to behave here.
Wait, since when?
Wow.
Since a long time ago.
All right.
Just look perplexed and you can claim innocence, Steve.
Yeah, represent the brand, man.
I can claim it. No, it is what it is.
Yeah, you've met us before, right? I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's yeah.
Well, no, if this was if this wasn't being recorded, I'd sound like Terry.
It is being recorded.
And for those of you watching, you imagine what Terry sounds like when we're off the air.
Yeah, the scary part, he's on his best behavior here.
I bet he doesn't use that long.
I still chuckle about that time Dan had David Harry on his show.
I was
we
about
were
to say
counting
that.
the seconds, until he said the F word.
13 seconds or something like that, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing.
Dan had Terry and I on one webinar he was doing, right? And the entire chat room's on Skype laughing away, counting how long it's going to take till something slips out of Terry's mouth. I think the word shit came out at 12 minutes or something.
Unfortunately, it happened faster than we could get the pool started, or somebody would have hit it.
God knows,
Yeah,
it was.
The thing is, mostly we've talked by text, and of course, I didn't realize how much of an overcusser David was. They've got there's actually one of the radio stations around here has a bit where they send this guy out with a mobile to try and interview people at press events as the overcusser. So he'll just start. So, Mr. President, what the fuck were you thinking about when you fucking... And, it's amazing how many people try and fight through it, and we fought through it for a good hour before, I believe Andrea told me that we had to get off the air now because her ears were bleeding. It's so sad to see, that poor single mother of 47 children have to
Holy
suffer like
Skippy.
that. Well, not 7, not 47. Sometimes I forget.
That's a pass full of kids.
Because they keep moving around. I mean, how do you know you're not double counting? It's like whack-a-mole.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah, shit! Start again.
Well, 4 o'clock Central Time hangout, or happy hour hangout, where you start, and the first person that cusses has to drink, and if anybody else cusses, then they have to drink too. And
Why
so,
can't we just start drinking earlier?
well,
Why are we waiting for 4?
Okay, the game starts now. Every time someone cusses, you must drink a shot.
Okay.
So do I get to cut for every drink I've already had?
Dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
You haven't given us more yet, Doc. Sorry, you're not allowed to drink, buddy.
Don't know. See, 4 o'clock is different everywhere in the world, so.
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm on UK time right now.
See, I thought it was 5 o'clock. I've been working an hour too long all this time.
Well, it's like the Newfie guys. I went over their place one time, and they had a clock on the wall that all had 5s. In the middle, it says bar opens at 5. The best clock I ever saw. All right, where were we? What the fuck are we talking about? Oh, we're lost.
Yeah, there goes the word.
Keywords had been proposed as a topic, but I think it fell by the wayside.
Yeah, well, we got an hour out of it. What the hell, man?
Wait. I got keywords as triggers for types of queries, like menu, or distance, or how, why, what is.
Comparison.
Have you ever tried putting what the F-U-C-K in Google and typing it in, seeing what happens?
No.
Say it. Say, okay, Google, what the, and see what happens.
Oh, no, see, that might be fun. I am looking frequently for how-to, or just now for the Hangout thing, I said fix, and then I copied and pasted the exact error I got. Fix this app, da-da-da-da-da. I do stuff like that. You know, so that's what I do.
On a side note, Frank Watson says they just bought cannabisradio.com, and they have 8 shows launching soon. Given the name of the domain, it should take them a while. All right, man, what are we gonna do? This could take a while.
Cannabis Radio.
On the other side, we've got Jay Cricket Walker. I don't know Jay's first name, so you might let us know. Cricket says, lol, 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 this is my favorite part of Fridays. Well, Vitamin could be here for you.
She's an avid watcher now. I've known her for about
It's my favorite. Cricket, it's my favorite part of the week, never mind Fridays.
So Cannabis Radio, it might be a lot of people talking, you know,
like radio? I don't know, yeah.
Like they're holding their breath. Oh, this is really good shit.
Yeah, I mean lots of that. Or you just hear lots of bubbling of bongs during the show.
I don't know. I'm so far away from that. I know nothing about the culture anymore. I still think Cheech and Chong.
Oh, by the way, in response to an earlier comment by Frank, Yandex Analytics does rock.
Oh yeah, I've never tried it.
Unfortunately, they're not in North America, but if you're doing stuff in Europe, oh man, they've got some great features.
Really? Never tried it.
Their webmaster tools are really admirable.
David, speaking of doing stuff in UK, did you ever get your Canada issue sorted? Where you could search outside of your country?
Yeah, I think it was Hugo before. Yeah, Doc's still laughing. You had to bring that up, huh? Just had to
Was it an operator error?
No, stupid enough that when it redirects me to CA, down at the bottom right, there's a little link saying, did you mean to search google.com, and you click that, and it takes you.
I think we call that an ID10T error.
Oh, I know that error.
Like I said to Doc, I went immediately and renewed my subscription to Duh Magazine.
Dumb Magazine.
DUH, Duh Magazine.
Oh, okay.
I just use Internet Explorer. I put G in URL window, and it takes me to Google. I don't even have
but does it hold it afterwards? Because my in Firefox and stuff, as soon as I hit it, it doesn't matter. It just redirects to .ca.
Oh no, it stays on .com.
Yeah, lucky you.
Yeah, I don't know what I did to it. It did it for a little while. And I kept, every time I went, Dave, I would go down to the bottom and click the .com button to go to .com. I think maybe they put 2 and 2 together, and decided that I didn't really want to go to .ca. I wanted to go to .com.
What I do is I set up on my Firefox, because I use Firefox almost exclusively. I set up on speed dial. I'll set up a button for my Google Co UK, Google Com AU, Google Com, Google CA, and I use that. It's not the it's quick once you get it set up, you know. But that way, when I need a country-specific one, I bypass all that crap.
So Terry, we kind of ran off after you made your last thing. You were talking at one point about your semantic baskets and stuff. I'm pretty sure we're close on that one, but you might as well run through it for those looking for value from this show.
Where we would have broken it down into separate keywords, right? I just leave the basket together. Then, like for me, keyword research was always, I didn't care about the numbers. The numbers were irrelevant. All it did was tell me where to prioritize my work.
Which I think is a good common sense tip for everybody listening, watching, is that do not do research in Google AdWords tool and give that to your client on potential numbers.
Oh, they're not even close.
No. So
they count everything, including impressions in Gmail, probably.
Oh, and it doesn't even play into like click bias and all that kind of stuff, Terry. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're ranked 5th or below the fold. Your click bias rate's going to be so much lower than if you're 1, 2, or 3. So.
For me, the one I like the best is to go to Google Webmaster Tools and get the report that shows you the average position and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better way to go.
Yeah. You know, that's the most accurate. It shows you when your pages are actually being displayed.
Sometimes I trust that about as much as I trust the rest of it. You know,
well,
you want us to think we're in that position.
But again, Em, and that's where I'll start to, you know, build little custom reports and stuff, and then break that down into regional, into devices, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? So at least you make that data sing a bit better. You know.
Hey, I got a topic: organic keyword traffic prediction, giving estimates to clients on how organic SEO.
Oh, fuck off! Don't even.
No, don't laugh. I've got a client right fucking now that, you know, my CEO wants to know for our IT decisions, this and that, what we can expect from XYZ in terms of this and that, and I'm like, are you kidding me, right? Yeah.
I love Dan. I use his more. You get more traffic. That's what you do.
Well, we use a rolling average, and we present it as a rolling average of our current clients over the last 3 months in terms of month-over-month growth in organic search contribution. And tell them that if they want to use that number to forecast with, they're welcome to, but we can't tell them if it's going to go up or down.
And that's exactly what these guys are after, some forecasting for making their decisions with their budgets and shit like that.
It's not necessarily about a decision, right? It's about just getting an answer that's, you know, if you can hit all your guesses down the middle, then your budget will come out right, even if one thing moves one way and another thing moves the other way. So give them the best ability to forecast that you can, and they need it.
Yeah. If they even ask about traffic, the first thing I do is ask, well, are you doing advertising revenue? Because if you're not based on getting income off impressions, what the hell do you care?
Thank you.
If you're interested in sales, I may have to take down your traffic and go for more targeted and get more sales from less visits, because that's what you count, is where the money is. Now, if you want to get lots of impressions, that's great. I can go for all kinds of keywords that will not convert and have nothing at all. But, you know, set your goal in the first place. If your goal is sales, and for most people it is, then that's what we're going to go for. If your goal is sign-ups, that's what we're going to go for. And the idea is to do as few impressions as needed to get as much of what you want as possible.
Radical concept, Eamon.
Well, but I think you also, once you do user types, that's kind of what you do. What's their need state? Are they looking for support? Put them on the damn support page. Do they want to buy something? Put them on it. Are they in the research phase? Put them on the comparison page against their competitor's product. You know, what are they looking for? If they're looking for complaints or reviews, make sure your stuff's out there. You know, where's your reviews on your website that are going to come up for your brand plus reviews. You know, Eamon's definitely good, definitely wisdom, Eamon.
I do worry when people ask about the traffic because, you know, it usually is a pointless metric. You're assuming that your conversion rate stays the same, and, you know, frankly, I'm here because your conversion rate sucks. I'm here because you haven't got 3%.
Which even goes back to what you were talking about, and you always make a point of this, by the way, interestingly, which is the ticket value price of the item we're talking, and so that's still going to change. You know, your $10 products and your $200 products are going to have totally different conversion rates and acquisition rates and everything in between. So to try and generalize it all in one big pile makes no sense.
Well, exactly. And let's pick an example everyone will know. What do you think the conversion rate is for Lamborghini's website or Ferrari's?
0.00001.
Exactly, and you know, if you're doing luxury yachts, luxury houses, you're going to get a lot of looky-loos before you're going to get anybody serious, and half of the serious ones, they're going to come through on a brand search term. They're not going to come through on search. So yeah, knowing your market, knowing where everything's going is going to be absolutely vital.
All right, who's watching the show in there?
Somebody's echoing.
Yeah, someone's got the show on somewhere. Oh no, someone's got their speakers up. That's what that is.
Yep.
I have my speakers up, but no noise like that.
No echo. I think it was Steve.
I was.
I'm not sure.
I know better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know who it was.
We're being watched. I know so many site
owners.
owners.
Our viewer count keeps going up. So I don't know what's going on here.
Whose account?
4 or 5 now.
I think NSA may have just augmented their staff or something.
I know so many site owners who are just, you know, so happy to report how much traffic they got, and it's just like, yeah, but what are they to do? Did it land and then bounce away? I mean, so what? I get really upset.
My response to that is, okay, so you've got a for sale sign in front of your house and you're bragging about how many cars drove past?
Bingo. I mean, that's a good answer. I'll remember that one. I mean,
no, but again, look at what we were talking about with the attribution earlier. Again, you know what I mean? That bounce rate could be someone who's like checking something out and they'll come back later. You know what I mean? Maybe they've searched a specific product, okay? They go to that page, they see a price, they bounce back. They go to the next one, they go to that one, look at the price, bounce back. They go to the next one, go over there, look at the price, bounce back, and then they start narrowing it down, right? Or whatever. They add it to the bookmarks or you know, or whatever they're doing. Like, you know, even the Google, you know, Windows 8 has those little desktop notepad note stickies. They could put a link in there and then click it later, and that becomes a direct visit. But now, was that how they found you in the first place? So that's where, again, where people start to get in this whole implicit user feedback shit, which is bounce rates, scrolling on page, time on page, all that shit, bounce rates. When they start to get into that, you know, there's another very logical reason why Google won't put a ton of stock into it, because they know through their own tracking of analytics that this isn't how people shop. People do tend to. How many people are going to visit a page the first time and buy something? Not too often.
But I thought Google, part of their algorithm was evaluating the bounce rate, and if it was high, then they decided your content was correct.
Think about what we just said. Okay? I'll give you 2 different ones. I'm going to give you an informational query, and then we're going to do it. I'll give you a transactional, then we'll do informational. So the first example I gave you, right? So XYZ product. They click through to your page. They see the price $49.95. They click back. They go to the next thing in the search result. They go to that one. It says $59.99. They click back. They go to the next one. It says $55.99. They click back. So that bounce rate makes no sense, because now they're going to go back to your listing, or if they bookmark that page or something, whatever, they could access it directly later. Point is that bounce rate doesn't really tell Google anything value-wise in that situation. Now, does it? So
no.
let's pick another one. Let's say you've got an informational page about what is the price of tea in fucking China. Someone clicks through that result, looks at your page, and you've got one little paragraph that says, you know, it's 49 and whatever. Gives the information. They click back. They check 2 more pages, just like we did last time, to see if that correlates. And they realize, okay, all 3 of these pages correlate that information I just got, right? Meaning that, okay, fine. So they end their search task and they go on, either close Google or they search something else and go on about their life. So they bounced from your page. Is that telling Google that that was a bad user experience? No, it doesn't. And Google,
Or they do
the
like
engineers
me.
understand
They open the product links in another tab, and then they
that.
go
But they
read
might
them
not.
one
But
at a
they might
time.
not. Point is any idiot that sits there and says that bounce rate is a fucking ranking factor or a dampener, they're idiots, because Google's smarter than that. The engineers know what we're talking about right now, because they're obviously smarter than us, and they've got the data to support it.
But isn't it part of the algorithm?
No,
I didn't say.
no.
Okay, I'm wrong.
We don't know for sure. Google has looked at implicit user feedback. Now, again, implicit user feedback is a basket of fucking signals. It's not.
Yes.
So anytime you hear any SEO talk about dwell time or fucking scrolling on page or bounce rates, and they say this one thing is a ranking factor, right away close that fucking tab, because they don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
Secondly, any way that they've used these, and again, you don't see a lot of patents as much as you see research papers that the Googlers have done. And when they look at these, they look at them as a whole, as an aggregate of all these feedback signals. So an implicit signal is something someone does without an action, meaning scrolling on a page, time on page, bounce rates, stuff like that. An explicit user feedback would be sharing that page, bookmarking that page, things of that nature, where they're taking an active clicking role in that page and doing something about that page. So when they take all this stuff, they got to add it all together to get any kind of useful fucking signal. And even at the, just think, how many tabs do you have open right now?
5.
All right. So what's your dwell time on some of those pages? 10 hours? 5 hours? 3 hours?
Yeah, I mean some all day long.
Right. So how is dwell time going to tell them anything? It's not.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It just isn't.
Okay.
You know, so they tend to look at all these signals into it and then, you know, put them all into one sort of scoring mechanism. But at that point, how much value do you give that scoring mechanism compared to, say, the social graph or the link graph or anything else? You know what I mean? Semantic relevance. It's hard to put a huge value on that because they're just what they call noisy. Search engineers call that kind of signal noisy. And what noisy means is it's not totally trustable. You can't fully trust that signal. So, you know, again, whenever I see people, especially isolates, in bounce rates when you hear the most. And I've been shitting on people in posts since like 2007 or something.
You can clean up that data quite a lot by using a bit of JavaScript to detect whether the tab is active. i.e., is this tab got focus? If it hasn't, you stop the timer. If it has, you put the timer on. And you
and that's where the scrolling thing comes in too. If someone's you know got tab focus, if they're not scrolling, focus or not, I walked away. You know what I mean? Like I got a laptop right here, and I've got one tab in focus right now. Am I doing anything with it? No, I'm busy in here. So again, it's going to sit there for an hour, even if it's in focus. It's not going to make a difference.
The interesting thing, though, is to track when it loses focus and then gets focus again, because that usually means either they've opened another window on the top and gone back to it, or they are flicking between tabs. So I do find it still useful.
But and most certainly, Marge,
something from it that's useful. Noisy, yes, but
Marge, anytime you see some idiot talking about one of those type of signals, and not talking about anything, the other ones, you can close that tab because they haven't a clue how fucking search engineers think and work and how algos work. Because implicit user feedback is a culmination of these kind of signals to come up with some sort of scoring mechanism. Any one on its own isn't going to give it to you. So.
Okay.
I could see them using it with machine learning to identify panda pages and shit. For sure.
Entirely possible.
That's really a better use of it than using it for ranking a site. Identifying crap sites would be a good way to have a starting seed kind of set, build a seed set based on that data, right?
And again, Terry, as you and I often talk about, there's a difference between a signal and a ranking factor. You know what I mean? And for those listening, watching, because I see people keep coming in, a signal could be something that they could use for search quality, they could use for spam detection, they could use for, pandas and penguins and other algorithms, or they could use it as a ranking factor. A signal doesn't mean that it's a ranking factor. They're two different kind of animals. So yeah, Terry, it's entirely possible that some of the search quality team uses a lot of that implicit, explicit stuff. You know what I mean? To juxtapose against their search results and see how they're performing with their search quality. I could see that being used for sure as signals. How much of that implicit kind of stuff is a ranking factor? I would think it's probably something there, but I don't think it's a huge one at this point, personally. I'd ask Bill, but he's busy having his birthday. So happy birthday, Bill, wherever you are.
Happy birthday, Bill.
It's one of those ones as well where Google has, you wouldn't say a few bounces matters one way or another, but when you've got millions of queries and you can see that 90% of them are doing this, then it becomes a much more important factor.
And the other thing, when people talk about a bounce rate, well, Google, and I believe it was Matt Cutts, who said we do not use Google Analytics for any.
Yeah, no. When I think it was Matt McGee or some poor bastard wrote on Search Engine Land back in 07 when I first went after this shit. I even talked to Matt, and that's, I remember I showed you the email, and he was like, no. It's noisy, we don't like this stuff, etc., etc. And to your point, Steve, to your point, actually, Ammon, it also depends what happens with that search task afterwards. Because a bounce, technically, is somebody goes to a page and comes back within a given frame of time or whatever, right? But did they end the search task there? Meaning, did they go there, and again, but even if they bounce back, they might use the second result to correlate. What's the... Steve, what was that one that we used to use an example that you guys had like a 2-sentence page or whatever it was?
Oh, how big is a millimeter?
How big is a millimeter? Is that what it was? So yeah, his buddy used to rank number 1 for that, right? So people would search it, and this, it's just before we had the answer boxes and shit, but so people used to go to this page, get the answer within literally 10 seconds, and bounce back. Now, if they come down here and then go to this page to correlate that, and it says the same thing as Steve's buddy's page does, and they bounce back, and then end their search task, meaning close the tab or go on to a new search, does that mean that his buddy's page is irrelevant? No, because it had the right information. The person just bounced back because they could A, read it in 10 seconds, B, they click the next one down before ending the search task just to correlate that answer. And I'm pretty sure the engineers are smart enough to know that. So just because they bounced off his buddy page, clicked the second one down, then bounced back and stopped the search task doesn't mean the first one was wrong. There are situations where this happens. So.
What about a bunch of businesses that are like Smith & Company, as an example? Do a search for that. You're going to get a bunch of results. You're going to go and check and see if that's the Smith. You're going to bounce a lot of pages. But that's why I never... people who talk about that stuff like it's a big deal, right? If you're not correlating it, it's a big deal because your fucking users may be leaving, then you're an idiot. If you're doing it because Google may not like it, you got your priorities mixed up because Google has never bought a thing from me.
Eamon, there was a time about 5 to 6 years ago, and I was, just studying things just because, that's how my brain works. And I was looking at how they do focus groups and put those kind of things together, and how you phrase questions and how you go about understanding people. So I literally would go down to the bar and buy a few people a drink with my fucking laptop and tell them, okay, how would you find this? And go and find this, and watch how they search, and sit there and see how they actually, a normal person, not one of us that's used to, using Google, how they use it, how many words they put in a query, how do they bounce, how do they figure things out. And it's totally different than those of us in the business. The average user is, and I think so many people in our business are so close to it that they don't, the forest for the trees for the forest, They miss that. And you need to, or, I'll watch my kids and how they find stuff and how they use Google. And I think that's so important enough people do it. Like, get a focus group of people together. And like I said, people laugh at me. What, you think you lapped up to the bar and really asked people this? I'm like, yeah, I fucking did. Yeah. Here, I'll buy you a shot, man. Show me how you would find this. And watch how the normal, average, everyday person uses Google, because I think that's more the data Google's looking at, not what we think,
Exactly. The one I recommend for that.
For the same reason your clients usually don't know the best keywords, because they're thinking from the seller's point of view, not the buyer's. And they already know about the product. So it's, the different approach by the searchers.
Go ahead, Emma. What was that?
Back at Creator Site, back around 2003, 2004, I did a thing on proper keyword research, and that very similar to that was one of the things I said. Go spend an hour down an internet cafe, buy a few people a coffee, and ask them, how would you find this? Watch them, and They're right.
It's
there
amazing,
anyway.
isn't it? Like if you've done it, and I literally, I'm not kidding, I did this, but it was a bar, so whatever. But yeah, and they weren't drunk. I'm talking like 5 in the afternoon when people still having their first drink. And yeah, literally, dude, it works. It's because it's so amazing how different the average user approaches that task compared to how we would, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, definitely internet cafe. One of the coffee bars, you know, that have the free Wi-Fi. You've got a lot of people who use the internet casually there. Still understand these are still power users. These are still people who use it a lot. I mean, I've got neighbours who their internet use is to log into Facebook maybe once a week. Maybe less. You know, that is their main internet use. And asking them how would they do such a thing. And the final one was, with one company, I sent the sales team home, the entire sales team of the company, home with questionnaires for their neighbours and their family.
Yeah, and dude, even ages play into it. Like one of the things I learned doing this was that older people use shorter phrases and then had to keep refining their query. Young people seem to have learned that you got to put 4 or 5 or 6 words into a query if you want to find it quick. So I think there's even a demographic element that plays into it depending on the product or the service you're selling, because they actually search differently. Younger people, and I remember asking them, I was like, why do you naturally just right out of the gate put 5 words? And the guys, you know, the people would say to me that, well, because that's how Google is, man. You know, you got to be more descriptive in Google. And we've seen that over the years. 2-word queries used to be the king, and then it was 3-word queries, then 4-word queries. And yeah, the older folks still go with that 2- and 3-word query, and then they have to reformat the query, and you know, they waste a lot of time. Younger people were like fucking boom, they put in a very definitive query into and they knew how to do that, and they would find things a lot faster. So even the age demographic plays into it. I think.
Even then, I mean, Google suggests.
In the old days, remember, Ammon, the search engine, Ask Jeeves, that had the ticker? You would not be, I was amazed when I started watching that, how many people asked it a fucking question. Didn't use keywords, asked it a question.
Exactly. The best question I ever saw was on Ask Jeeves through the keyhole, which was that last 50 searches made in real time. And it was, where can I find a red Chevy like my Uncle Bob's? I mean, it was just genius.
I remember you brought that up a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I remember that.
But in addition to that, I think one of the reasons we're seeing an increase in keywords, Google Suggest is working, and that is a copy of Ask Jeeves, where if you did any kind of query, refined queries would be listed. It would list 5 with extra words at the side, which were kind of where people went next. And that's where, you know, let's face it, that's where Google Suggest comes from. Some of it is just queries that start with this, often, you know, the longer ones are this, but some of it was also looking at what queries do people tend to refine and what do they refine.
Yeah, and Terry, I think this is a lot of the core of the classification, unification, I guess we could call it, that we saw with Hummingbird, is because people approach the same search task with different queries, but it's really the same task.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, massively. One of the most fascinating things ever in keyword data was, you know, the revelation when it first came out, and we're going way back, that 50% of all search queries are unique. Now, sometimes that uniqueness is just the order of the words rather than completely different words, but even then, the depth of those queries. You know,
right, and that's what we were seeing, is that they were trying to get around that this exact match type of approach to returning results didn't seem to make sense because of exactly what you're saying. The order changes, or 1 or 2 words may change, but they're really, that task is looking for the same answer. So how do we get around that? And I think that's, you know, I agree with that totally, and I think that's what Terry and I were seeing with Hummingbird. So.
And I think Google has made tremendous progress in that direction too.
I think they're still missing a trick.
Like Google Talk, right? They got a ton of data from that, and then they hired the genius of the world to analyze that and tell them.
And that's what I think, Doc. Doc, I think this is all moving towards voice search.
I know you're laughing at me because I know the facts, but I don't know the people, or I don't remember names. It's okay.
Doc, I think a lot of this, Doc, is that they also foresee the future as voice search, and so you have to amalgamize that to a degree. With voice search, because people are going to say, you know, when they verbally speak, it's even more ambiguous than when they type something in.
So. Absolutely.
Well, that's what the natural language processing is about, man. That's what it, you know, they learned so much from that stuff. Everything is changing. And the devices and the way people search, like, you know, pretty soon we are going to be like on Star Trek, if we aren't already.
Well, I mean, you got to think about if I've got a phone or Siri get me or Siri whatever, or dial this or connect, or who is the 40th president of the United States? What's that going to trigger? What is the formula for... I don't want to say that. Tap water.
You look at the conversational search. I think that shit still fascinates me to this day. Like, again, if you could still do this in Chrome, and it's not, you know, they haven't fleshed it out, but it's a great vision of where we're going. So the easiest one to do is go to your Chrome, go to google.com, and you'll see the little microphone beside it, right? And just talk to your computer and say, who is the President of the United States? It'll bring back, you know, fucking Barack Obama. Then you say to keep it open, click it again, say, who is his wife? And it will literally bring back Michelle Obama. Okay, you didn't say who is Barack Obama's wife. You continued your search in a conversational manner.
And how long have they been married? How many kids do they have? Yeah, it's
yeah, it does very well, dude. That's my best example because they haven't really nailed it with a lot of stuff, but it gives you an idea where we're headed. And that's what they call conversational search. And it is amazing. You tried it, I guess, Doc, right? Yeah, it is fucking amazing. I'm impressed with it.
I tried it with a lot of different queries, too, and you're right. It doesn't work perfectly on everything, but it is getting better all the time.
It's impressive. I'm impressed.
2 days ago I was doing it, and I'm seeing progress over the last year.
Yeah, it is impressive. The conversational search and the voice search stuff, man, that is going to be the future, folks.
Well, if you have a problem, Doc, it's because you're slurring all the time.
Ah, well, it's
Hugo!
Try a Texas accent and see how it works for you. Who y'all think's the president this year?
Yeah, well, that's right. Yes, sir. You start getting them in there. Well, Terry, imagine a newfie trying to use voice search. All right, everybody. What do you know about that boat down there? Where do you know everybody? What the fuck did he just say? Mr. Hugo Gill, how are you, sir?
Oh, very well, thank you, Bean. Very well.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
You were just so perfect there. Oh, very well.
No, I'm going to put on my very British accent today, and it was sometimes I tend to. It really depends on who I'm speaking to.
You got your Winston on today. You go.
No, man. Ammon. I've always thought of him. He sounds like Richard Attenborough, man. I don't know. Is that a regional dialect or just his mellowness? I'm not sure.
No. Truly, I am a posh chap from a very posh background, but it depends on. I'm like a chameleon, you know. My accent changes with like the seasons.
It also depends. Yeah, you pick up a group accent. You know, if you go and visit people in Liverpool for a little while, you cannot help but start getting the sort of Scouse sound in there.
Yes.
Some of those accents. England is incredible because those accents can change in 100 yards.
I've spent time in the deep south and I've never sounded like a southerner.
Well, I think there's something like 650 plus different dialects of.
Well, no, you just look at the states. You know what I mean? You got Texas. You could be you're in Texas. You got one accent. You can go a couple hundred miles this way, and you're in Louisiana, and it all changes again. So
it really does.
Yeah, we can say that. I agree, y'all.
Okay, Babylon.
Louisiana guys sound a lot like Newfies. I find. I don't know.
Like what?
Newfies, Newfoundland. They're the guys up here by that talk like that. They're the fishermen out on the East Coast, you know. Hey, bye.
Newfies.
Yeah, that's exactly what they talk like.
That's right. The people in Louisiana, they sound a lot like our Newfies do, you know. Something to do with the fishing, I think. They've been out there talking to the fish too much.
Yeah, but they don't be having to cut to the Irish brogue in the background, man.
Well, they sound Scottish-Irish to me. I don't know. I mean, that flows down into the East Coast, New England.
Well, you got to look. Yeah, the East Coast of here in Canada, it's Nova Scotia, which translates to New Scotland. So you know.
And their music is fun. I've been to, Nova Scotian Music Fest, and I mean, these people just bang it up. They go wacky with their stuff. It's fun. A lot of fun.
There was an eclipse here in Europe today.
Yeah, time to turn off the live chat.
Well, technically it was up in the sky, but you could see it from Europe.
Yeah. Well, in Scotland...
Well, he was in the Highlands, so he's even more special.
Right, well, absolutely, it's not called the Highlands for nothing. No, but seriously, it was cloudy for the whole 3-hour duration because, of course, it's Northern Hemisphere. I've seen an eclipse before in Thailand, but it was only like 4 minutes because it's near the equator, of course, so it's much quicker. But this one, completely covered by cloud cover, and as soon as it had finished, I think it was about 5 to 12. I think about 5 to 12, wasn't it? The sun come out, beautiful blue sky, lovely sun, and I put it down to the following. As you know, the UK, they do tend to fluff us up in cotton wool a bit, Yeah, you know that. They call it the nanny state, yeah? It's a lot worse in Scotland now. Children have named persons, yeah? It's kind of like it's getting a bit weird, actually, Scotland. But as soon as I was thinking, well, even the creator, God, he also understood that no, we cannot let the British people even risk of blinding themselves looking at the eclipse. We will block it with clouds.
What kind of a defined robot?
Hold on, Cricket, we weren't saying anything about the Texas accents. I was just saying the differentiation as you go one state over. Literally, they change, so... Cricket was saying there was nothing wrong with the Texas accent. And knowing the gun laws down there, Cricket, I'm not messing with you. All right, we got that settled.
I'm the one doing the Texas accent. Who are you talking about?
No, you have to say I tell you what a whole bunch. Anyway, that's as far as I'm going.
Texas.
Now, after listening to oh fuck, Hugo go off there for a few minutes. I gotta say, like, they bug us Canadians about the word "a," and pretty much you might have heard it once or twice to this whole session. I think he just used the word "yeah" about 12 times. Yeah, we talked about this, yeah, and then that, yeah, and then we talked about this, yeah, and that, and the other one they use is right, yeah. I was going to see this guy, yeah, and he was downtown, right, and I was walking over here, yeah, and they bug us about the word "a," and now we're gonna move to the Americans just because I'm an equal opportunity asshole. And like, and are quite popular with people I meet in the States. They start talking like, I went to see this guy, and like,
yeah,
he was doing this, and like, he was totally an asshole, So that's 2 fucking words, and they still bug us Canadians about 2 letters, EH. I swear to God.
I got trained away from bugging Canadians about A when I hired a Nova Scotian.
Well, most of the Brits I know use right, and yeah. On the end of every, every sentence, but totally.
When I was in England, the pub I used to hang out in on a daily basis, the owner there was one of those yeah guys, and it was like literally every 3rd syllable was yeah.
Yeah.
You should try the other ones.
Yeah.
I told him one time, I could take a 30-minute conversation with you, strike all the yeahs, and we'd have a 15-second conversation.
When I'm on an audio interview of any sort, I hear myself persistently saying, to punctuate everything, and it just irritates me.
And Americans do it all the time, but we get busted over here in Canada for the word "a." I swear to God. You know what I mean?
It's just you have to break a habit.
No, they just know we're too nice to respond nicely, to respond roughly, other than Terry, of course. But they just know we're too nice, so they just.
Well, you know what I think it is, David. I think the is something that somehow or other got connected to Canadians in general.
Oh, yeah. I blame Bob and Doug.
I think a lot more Canadians
blame the Great White North, David.
You get blamed for having igloos and pet polar bears too.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was talking to a guy last night from Minnesota. And he's like, the weather there in Canada, ha ha ha. And I was like, dude, I'm in southern Ontario. I'm actually south of you, asshole. You're actually further fucking north than me, so.
I think everywhere is south of Minnesota.
No, that's not true.
At least climate-wise.
Minnesota is brutal. I spent 53 of my long years there.
I spent 6 months in Antarctica.
Cricket says she's 100% redneck. So there you go.
I once spent 6 months in Antarctica, and it was warmer than St. Paul, Minnesota.
You know, you should just join us one of these times, Cricket, by the way. Just saying.
I don't know. Each region has its colloquialisms and their filler words that they use. I don't care what you say.
Well, of course, that's just, you know, and that's what makes it beautiful, you know. And again, I like Doc and Terry. I'm an avid chef or amateur chef or whatever you want to call it. And regional food is exciting. You know, I love you know, Doc picking up regional freaking recipes and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've become a chef after joining Weight Watchers. My God, I'm making some really gourmet food. So much for that. Hey, Hugo, how come you're pink? Have you got a pink lampshade?
It's the weather.
It's pink. It's my...
Yeah, I mean, you're very pink.
Yeah, it's the background. It's pink.
Pink room?
I'm such a sunny guy, you know, that... You know, I have this aura around me of pink everywhere I go. People have been asking me that all day, actually, Marge. You know, what is this pink around you?
Yeah, it's the glow. I'm green, so...
Exactly, it's the special glow that
And there you go.
Glow, this aura I feel.
It's the Hugo glow. Okay.
No, Hugo.
Hugo. There you go.
Marge, since you love words, H-U-E, Hugo.
Yes, I got it.
Yeah. Right?
That was fun.
No, I don't know why that is. It's like that. It's because it's probably this old banger netbook that I'm using at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, your card, your video card. Okay.
Yeah, it's not very sophisticated. You know, it's just an old banger netbook. But it's good for testing. You know, it's good for checking stuff and. You know, there's a few computers in the household. My son's got the smartest one, and then my daughter's got. They all got. It's great for browser testing. They've got mobiles, tablets, so whenever I got, you know, this responsive stuff. You know, it's all, you know, it's good for checking all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I just sent Cricket. I just sent you an invite. Come on.
There you go.
Don't be shy.
Jump in there.
You know, I try to tell, I do websites, as everybody knows, and people, you know, say, well, this color looks wrong, and I try to help them understand that their graphics card is one part of the culprit, you know, because the way colors render on a screen.
Web design, it's always been that way. Like a client, a client will send me like a link to a site and say, see that color in the header? I want that color. So I'll use my color drop thing, right? Which will get the actual freaking color. It'll read the code.
Yep.
And so I put that color on the header or whatever, and then show the client. They're like, no, that's totally wrong. I'm like, no, your fucking computer's not calibrated. You know?
Exactly. I mean, I've had that discussion so many times. You know,
that one too well.
Update your graphics. But anyhow, you know, I've in my style sheets I started to use RGBA to get a true color, truer. But that's just me. Okay, hey Marge. Oh, now she wants to meet at 3.
$10 graphics card is not cutting it.
What did you say, Terry?
I said I would tell them, sir, your $10 card is not cutting it. You need a new card.
Well, a lot of the cards are, you know, integrated right into the motherboard, so, you know, maybe that means a new computer to them.
Yeah. I had something the other day that was running fucking Windows 3.1.
Windows 3.1? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Good.
How many years ago was that? Wasn't that almost 20 years ago?
That was one of the first...
I saw it. I used it.
93, 94 maybe? Something like that?
Yeah, 20 years ago.
95 came out right after. Sorry,
I saw Windows 1 and I hated it. But, you know, most of my resistance was to do with losing my beloved C prompt. Because I was pretty adept at DOS.
Ooh, hang about. Just a tick. I'll just go check someone's arrived. 1 minute.
I resisted Windows when it first came out because I was so comfortable with DOS. And
And I called the mouse pad a runway because I kept having to take off and land again to find my bloody cursor. What's the runway? It's the mouse pad. You know, I just couldn't get the hang of it at first, but I did, and I'm comfortable now, like we all are. We adapt or die.
That's it. Adaptability is key to success, and also appreciation.
And
Can't go far wrong. I call it the double A.
Doc resists AA.
Yeah, AA has a different meaning to me. Something to be avoided. Something to be avoided at all costs.
AA is American Airlines.
The assholes want to have their meetings at 5 p.m. That's happy hour, for Christ's sake.
There was a bar in Wisconsin that used to take 30-day chips and give people a beer in exchange. I thought that was pretty cold.
Yeah. Don't smoke in the house, children, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so those of you watching, listening, wherever you are, we're going to probably kill this at the moment, but we'll be in the green room still hanging out, talking just general shit.
Whatever. Yeah,
there is a link on the event page for those who want to come in and join us in the hangout, but we're just going to stop the on-air portion of this right now and talk to real dirt. This one we get the good shit going on. And, of course, talking about Hammond and Dan since they're not here to defend themselves.
What are you listening to today, DJ? Hey, DJ, Mr. Steve.